Tijuana, Innova. Por cierto, el señor Anderson va a presentar a los panelistas que usted tendrá en esta siguiente participación. Please welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. My apologies for speaking in English, but it is a real delight to be here in TJ. This is my second time at Tijuana, Innova, and exactly. I hope to be back many times. Since I want to tell you a story about my relationship with Tijuana and my relationship with Mexico, my relationship with some people who grew up here, and how we think this may be doing something that could change the world, at least our part of the world. I'm going to talk a little bit about this, the aerospace section, so I'm going to talk a little bit about aerospace and particularly the future of aerospace. And I'm going to tell you just my own personal story of how I got into this. My day job is I'm the editor of Wired magazine, web, and all that. But as a hobby, I do these things with my children. And this hobby took a strange turn. I have 5 children. And they're relatively, go from 4 years to 14, 15 I guess at this point. And I'm always trying to get them interested in science and technology. It's very hard. They just don't seem to want to be interested in science and technology. Maybe it's because I'm so interested, they choose not to be, but at any rate, I'm always thinking of projects that we can do together. One weekend on a Friday, in the office, we got these 2 things, these 2 boxes for them. One was a Lego Mindstorms, and the other was a rear-control airplane. The Lego Mindstorms is the Lego robotics kit, which allows kids to make robots out of Lego, which is cool. And the airplane was an airplane. And I thought this is going to be the best weekend ever. So we're going to, on Saturday, we're going to build a robot, and on Sunday, we're going to fly a plane. This is going to get kids excited about science and technology, and finally, this one will work. So this is Erin. She was, I think, 9 at the time, and we are starting with the Lego robots. And the first project you do is a 3-wheeled tribot, and you put it together with Lego, and you program it. And this is Daniel, and this is us starting it up. Now, what it does is it rolls forward until it sees a wall and it backs up. And the kids were like, "You're kidding? Is that it? You know, I've seen Transformers. I know what robots are supposed to do. Where are the lasers? Why is this not sort of turning into a racing car?" And, you know, the problem is that Hollywood has ruined robotics for children. You cannot compete with computer graphics. So they were disappointed. I said, okay, that's fine. Tomorrow we're going to fly a plane in the park, and that'll be cool. So we had this plane, and we go to the park, and I threw it in the air, and it ended up like that. So this did not go well. I'm a terrible pilot, it turns out. And the children were not just embarrassed by me crashing, they were also embarrassed because I went to the tree to retrieve it. So this was humiliating and a total failure of teaching children about science and technology. And then I went for a run, and I was so angry at myself for failing once again that I thought, how could I have done this differently? How could I have gotten the kids more excited? And I realized, I started thinking about the Lego Mindstorms kit, and I realized it came with these cool sensors. It came with a gyroscope sensor, and then a tilt, an accelerometer sensor, and a compass sensor, and Bluetooth, which you could connect to GPS. And it had a very powerful processor, and I was thinking, you know, you could almost fly the plane with the Lego. And so I came home and I said, kids, let's do one last thing. Let's try to come up with a Lego autopilot. And so this is what we did. We put the Lego in a plane, and with all those sensors, and it's, you know, kind of looked a little bit like this, and it was really horrible and, you know, exactly what you would expect when children put these together on a dining room table in an hour, but it almost worked a little bit. And we built a little Lego pan tilt assembly for the camera, and here's Daniel holding the plane, and then we built a better one involving better sensors, and I started Googling around and understanding a little bit how autopilots work. And we did put that one in a plane, and this one actually flew. This became a was autonomous. It was called an unmanned aerial vehicle, which means that the Lego flew the plane, gave it GPS waypoints, it flew by itself, it was a drone. We created a drone with Lego. And this is the world's first Lego UAV. And today it's in the Lego Museum in Denmark. Now it's interesting, I knew nothing about the subject. I just realized that these sensors were very cheap. And that a child, a 9-year-old, programmed this. So you may think of drones being military, and drones being high-tech, and drones being an aerospace industry thing. But this here is a drone that is capable of many of the same things as military drones, but it's made out of Lego and balsa wood and created by children. And that was a real wake-up call for me. This made me realize that there's a revolution going on in your phone. In your pocket right now, you have a device that has gyroscopes and accelerometers and magnetometers and GPS and great camera and great wireless and processing and memory and everything you need to create an autopilot. Basically, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but with the right app and the right cable, you could fly a 747 with your phone. There's an amazing technology revolution going on with the Apples and the Androids of the world, with these MEM sensors and the processing and the GPS and everything else. It's accelerating faster than we've ever seen technology accelerate before, thanks to the smartphone revolution. And these sensors are now available to everybody to use in new ways. Our way was robotics and drones. But you'll see the same thing happening with cars. You'll see the same thing happening with the Internet of Things. You'll see the same thing happening with wearable measurement health technology, like this Nike Fuel Band that I have. These are all using the same sensors. And we realized that they were so cheap and so easy to use that we could reimagine what a drone could be. It doesn't have to be a military or an aerospace or a big company thing. It could be a hobby thing, it could be a children thing, it could be a bottoms-up thing like the web itself. So I created a community called DIY Drones, and this is what I do when I don't know anything about a subject, or I want to build interest around a subject. I just do it in public. I do it on the web, and so I created this community. Today is quite big. It's one of the biggest robotics communities in the world, and it is just about people like me who are learning together about how to do things that used to be military, industrial, aerospace, big company technologies and skills. It turns out that these skills are out there, that there's people with digital electronics and analog electronics and aeronautics and sensor skills and radio skills, and they're out there around the world. And what we can do is just create a place for them to work together and do something for free that competes with the biggest aerospace companies in the world. We started with kits. We thought it would be fun to include children, so we started with blimps, a little robot blimp called Blimp-Duino. And the community said, well, thank you for the design, but could you please sell a kit? So I thought, okay, I guess we'll have to create a kit. And so I got my children to be the assembly line. This is technically child labor. Even cheaper than Mexican labor. I only have to, as you can see, I paid in strawberries. And the quality's not very good, though. I think I put the 6-year-old on quality assurance at the end. That was a mistake. But so that's how I got started, putting together robot blimp kits and selling them. And then I started a company with somebody I'm going to tell you about in a minute. And this is my Tijuana connection. But before I tell you about him and introduce him, I just wanted to show what a community of volunteers can do. We started with this autopilot here, which is based on the Arduino platform. I think you heard earlier this week from one of the Arduino team members, but it's an open source hardware platform. We then came up with a better autopilot, and as you can see, we're getting better at electronics integration and design, and making it smaller, and more reliable, more powerful. And again, this is just remember, like 5 years ago, I'm working with Lego and my children, and now we've created a community that's starting to make electronics that look like aerospace electronics. Then we started working with the Swiss Institute, the Swiss Research University, ETH in Zurich, and now we have like world-class autopilots that are designed for high-end academic use. Again, coming out of the community, open source, given away to the world. The designs are given away to the world for free. And we're now building a manufacturing facility that can make them. So where is this going? Well, we sort of think that the sky should be dark with robots in one way or another. We don't know how, we don't know what they're going to be doing, but we know the technology allows it. In the same way that we now have ubiquitous sensors and wireless and processing in our pockets, thanks to smartphones, that same technology can spread to our homes, to our environments, and to the skies. We don't know exactly what the applications will be, but we do know that the technology will be possible. You may have heard that there's a toy quadcopter, four-bladed copter, called the Faraday-R drone, which you can buy for about $300. It's not really a drone in the sense that it's not autonomous. It won't fly by itself. You remotely control it with an iPhone or an Android. And a drone, in our definition, is GPS waypoints, where you just give it a mission and it goes off and does its own thing. But we thought, but we love the hardware, and we thought, well, we'll just make it a real drone. So we provided a board that will allow you to turn an AR drone into a full UAV. And there's like 250,000 of them out there. So this starts to get interesting. You're now having a platform where you can teach high school students about aerial robotics, where you can create a generation of engineers who will be the future of the aerospace industry by making this cheap and safe and easy. You can see we use these things called quadcopters or multicopters, and this is an interesting technology in that it wasn't really possible until about 6 or 7 years ago. Basically, it uses 4 blades, 4 propellers to do all the control. There's no other moving parts. And it cannot be flown by a human being. It can't be flown manually because the speed of the propellers has to change as much as 400 times a second, faster than a human can go. And what you find is that because these things need computers on board, and because we now have the sensors to do that you can, let's see if I can get this working here, you can, well, it turns out that this, you can't see that. At any rate, 2 of the blades go one way, 2 go the other way, clockwise, counterclockwise, and by just changing the speed of the motors, you're able to control the vehicle. This is not hard now because we have cheap sensors and computers on board, but it was hard 10 years ago when those sensors were this big and cost thousands of dollars. Once you have that onboard computer, you can control any configuration, and you can see this is just some of the configurations that these autopilots can control. There's 6 blades, and then 6 blades going, towards a blade, and 6 blades with a V shape between them, so the camera can see. You can have 8 blades to carry a higher payload. You can have broader distributions to get more visibility for the camera. It's just math. It's the same autopilot, just using the math differently, and that's the beauty of having a computer on board, an aircraft with a brain. And so this is now what we do. We do quadcopters, we do hexacopters, we do all sorts of multicopters, traditional helicopters, airplanes, even cars. And this autopilot, this little board that our community created, allows any vehicle to become a drone, any vehicle to become autonomous. You just put the board in there, and suddenly you have access to navigation and stabilization and artificial intelligence and all that other stuff. It's really kind of miraculous. And because they're drones, they fly themselves. You don't fly these things. You just program a mission. And what you do is you just click on this is the mission planner. You just click on the map, and you tell us where to go and what to do when it gets there. Waypoints and camera controls. You can tell it to loiter. You can tell it to take off and land and things like that. So you don't fly the vehicle; it flies itself. And instead, you think about the mission. What do I want it to do? Here's an example of the kind of mission that people are using it for. You have a windsurfer. You have someone windsurfing on the bay, somewhere, maybe in California. And they think it would be really cool to get a video of this. Now, the video for windsurfing should probably be an aerial video, about 30 feet behind and 30 feet up. And you just want the camera to follow the windsurfer. And you could hire someone in a helicopter to do that. Or you just tell the drone to follow me. Just one command, follow me. You have a device that looks like this in your pocket that says GPS. You have the drone knows its own position, and the drone just follows you, follows the box, follows you as you do your thing, keeps the camera focused on you, and then when the battery gets low, it flies itself back. That's personal camera bot, a droid, this is the idea of having a robot cameraman who can follow you around as you do your stuff is kind of cool. And then this is not something you could buy today. It's something that was developed by a community. And you can't buy them from the Boeings and the Lockheeds of the world, but you can get it from this open source community that created it because it seemed like a cool thing to do. That's the kind of innovation that happens when you do bottoms up development. And it turns out it's an easy function, and today it's built into the code. But not something that the military was going to provide on their own. The way we set it up is that we ended up with a community. DIY drones is free, and we give away the bits, the software, the technology, the intellectual property, and then we create a company called 3D Robotics that makes the hardware. And we sell the atoms, and we give away the bits. At that point, I want to sort of kind of bring this back to TJ and talk about who is this we that I'm describing. Early in the creation of this community, DIY drones in 2007, one member posted a video of him flying a helicopter with a Wii controller that he'd hacked. It was really cool, and I asked him a little bit more about it, and he explained that it's used in this Arduino platform, and that was really cool. And then there's this thing called common filter. And anyways, I was learning a lot from him. And we decided, we got in touch and started to do some projects together. And eventually we decided to start a company together. This here is the cover of Make magazine. And Make magazine is sort of the Bible of the maker movement, which you heard more about. I think Dale Doherty, the publisher and creator of Make, was here earlier this week. And this is the cover of Make that featured this guy. This guy's name is Jordi Munoz. And he's here in the audience, and I'm going to bring him up in a second. But first I want to embarrass him a little bit with the story. When we decided to start a company, this seemed to be the smartest guy to do it. This guy seemed to know everything I needed to know. And he was interested in starting the company together. And so we asked him a little bit about himself. And it turns out that he was from TJ. He had just moved to the United States. Was waiting for his green card. He was a little bit bored in his apartment, so that's why he was playing with the Wii controllers and the helicopters. And he was available to start a company together. So we started 3D Robotics, and then things started to get interesting. Here we have they started a kitchen table and then a dining room table, and then the converted garage. This is Lorenzo and Jordi on the right. And it kept growing and growing, and then this is the factory now in San Diego. This is 3 years, the company is 3 years old. And this is now one of two factories. The second factory is in TJ. And what we're doing is, and I'll bring them up in a second to tell you about it, what we're doing is we're sort of trying to change the aerospace industry. Right now, the world of drones it looks like this. It's big military ones that cost millions of dollars. Or hundreds of thousands, or tens of thousands, but they're expensive, and there aren't many of them. The US military has 7,000 drones total. And what we're thinking is, let's just go the other way. Let's do bottoms up. So right now we sell drones for under $1,000, and there's tens of thousands of them. Soon we'll be able to sell drones for hundreds of dollars, like sort of like $99 or under $100. And there could be hundreds of thousands of those. And then someday we think that this technology is just going to be built into anything. These will be chips, and they'll sell for single dollars. And now we have disposable drones. And when you think about swarms of flying robots, that's how it's going to happen, using this bottoms-up model. This is not something that, that the big military industrial complex companies are going to create. This is going to be the thing that comes out of small entrepreneurial, community-based, open companies like ours. So I want to just end with one note, which is when you think about, so what right do I have to talk about this thing? It was 5 years ago, it was a toy in Lego with my children, and now it's a small entrepreneurial company. How can I talk about this as the future of aerospace? I mean, how can we possibly compete with the biggest aerospace companies in the world? And I just want to remind you the story of the PC. The IBM PC, 1980, what was it, 80, 81, something like that? How did that PC come to be? Was it that IBM scaled down The mainframe computer? Or did they scale up the Apple II? Or Apple I in this case? And we know the answer. It was scaling up the Apple. It was scaling up the circuit boards and the innovation of the homebrew computing club, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, of the hobbyists who realized that the chip, the 8088, was now available, and they thought of new ways to use it, and they invented the personal computer. Sure, the IBMs of the world had better computers and more powerful computers, but the point was they were personal. The point the computers wanted to be on your desktop. They wanted to be yours. It wasn't the power of the computer, it was how it was used. And what the grassroots, bottoms-up approach revealed was a new class of user. By adding the word personal to computer, they changed the world. And what we're trying to do with the same process, a homebrew robotics club, if you will, what we're trying to do is add the word personal to drones so that we can find new ways to use it that don't involve military, don't involve weapons, don't involve war, but instead are civilian applications that may be more exciting. So my book on the subject, this is the maker movement, and we're industrializing the maker movement. This came out this week, and I talk a lot about this story and our experience with Jordy and TJ and the rest. So at this point, I'd like to invite these guys up. They're in the audience here. Come on up. So, Guillermo Romero is running a TJ operation, and here's Jordy himself. So let me just tell you a little story. Oh, thank you. A little story about how we started. So, I mentioned how Jordy and I learned work together on doing some new designs, and then built a company together. But what I didn't tell you is the three things that he taught me. People probably assume that Jordy, when I met him, was maybe 20 years old, and just graduated from high school, and was probably unemployed at the moment, and I was the editor of Wired. You would probably think that I taught him more than he taught me, but the opposite is true. He taught me three things. The first thing he taught me was on the first day that we met, which was Arduino. Understanding that an open hardware platform was the way to go. The second thing he taught me was, as we scaled up to build a factory, I knew nothing about factories. And what would happen is we started hand soldering things, and then he told me one day that he had built a reflow oven with a toaster oven, and then he told me that he'd found a pick-and-place machine on one of these robot printed circuit board popular puts chips on boards. He found one of them that was on eBay. On eBay. Do you have mics, by the way?
Yeah. Sí, lo encontré en eBay. I'm gonna speak.
Yeah, we're gonna switch to Spanish very quickly. So then I came down to visit him, and he had this incredible high-tech production process with reflow ovens and pick-and-place machines, stencil printers, and QA and jigs, and I was like, oh my God, how did he learn this? And the answer is he's smart, and he has access to the internet, and he asked all the questions, and he just did it. He just taught himself everything he needed to do professional manufacturing. And then the third thing he taught me, and this brings Guillermo in, he taught me about the power of TJ. So these two guys are, what, high school friends? Okay, since middle school, and they've been friends forever. And it became clear that we needed to scale up production. And I knew nothing about Mexico, nothing about Tijuana. But they lived on both sides of the border, and they recognized that there were incredible skills here, production skills. There were engineers. There was professional, ISO 9000 compliant skills, things we couldn't get in the United States, and I knew nothing about this. And today, Guillermo runs the TJ operations, which we were just visiting, and is producing most of our boards, and Jordy's team runs the San Diego operations. And I now find myself here. I'm a kind of Mexican entrepreneur, I guess now. I still don't speak Spanish. I just want to say that when people look at our company, they're impressed by the technology, and they're impressed by the strategy, but what they're really impressed by is that we have figured out how to do high-tech manufacturing in North America cheaper than the Chinese. And that, I think, is going to be a powerful lesson. You want to know how we do it? It's going to be this combination of the production skills here, you know, the entrepreneurial skills, the venture capital. We've found a way to cross the border and compete with the East in a way that's not only an order of magnitude cheaper than the Chinese, but the innovation process is much, much faster because the supply chains are so much shorter, because we're so well integrated. And so I think if you can extract any lesson from this experience, it's the cross-border, it's the TJ lesson, even more so than open source and web innovation and everything else. So these guys taught me all that, and I just wanted to turn the mic over to you and tell more of the story.
Bueno, primero que nada, pues gracias, es un gran honor, Chris. La verdad me encantaría platicarles todos los detalles de la empresa, pero creo que tan poquito tiempo no va a haber, pero podemos concentrarnos un poco en preguntas si gustan bien, para enfocarnos en temas que les podrían interesar. Más que nada, pues, uno como tijuanero, que crece en las cercanías de la frontera en San Diego y todo eso, pues crecemos con la tecnología, la entendemos como si fuéramos californianos, ¿no? Entonces creo que es algo que todos, inclusive muchos tijuaneros que están aquí presentes, ya tenemos ese chip. Entonces cuando uno pues tiene la oportunidad y entiende cómo funciona aquí, pues o sea, desde chiquitos allá de las maquiladoras, que no voy a meter goles, pero todas las maquiladoras que están allá afuera, sabemos el potencial que tenemos como ciudad, pero lamentablemente no está explotado. La gente no tiene ni idea. En Silicon Valley, San Francisco, el resto de Estados Unidos, no sabe que Tijuana existe. Entonces, Chris Anderson nos dio una gran oportunidad de poder dar a la luz Tijuana, y creo que eso va a ser grandioso. Les quiero presentar a Guillermo. Él es el mero de Tijuana. La verdad que él fue en Estados Unidos facilísimo abrir una empresa de la mañana, ya tienes todo hecho. México, Guillermo la verdad es todo un héroe aquí. ¿Quieres ser trasladado a eso?
Les quiero dar un mensaje nada más. No crean que porque nos ven aquí arriba con una eminencia como Chris Anderson, no crean que llegamos a Tijuana a abrir una fábrica con todo el dinero del mundo, ni con todas las oportunidades abiertas. No, tuvimos que tocar puertas y empezar en nuestra propia casa, en nuestro departamento. Un departamentito donde empezamos a hacer envíos internacionales a todas partes del mundo. Este es el mensaje importante que se debe transmitir, que no nada más con artículos como tan innovadores como un dron se puede llegar al éxito, sino con muchas otras oportunidades de fabricar algo, de que sean makers y lo vendan utilizando las plataformas de comercio electrónico que ya existen gratuitas, utilizando plataformas de comunicación para manejar el customer service, atención al cliente, muy importante, etcétera. Entonces espero les quede el mensaje para que ustedes mismos realicen exactamente lo mismo que estamos haciendo nosotros. Empiecen en su casa, después de ahí van a poderse mover a un lugar más grande.
In Spanish or English? There's one up here, please. Bring the microphone down, please.
First, thank you, Chris, for coming again to Tijuana, for coming here and sharing your knowledge and your expertise with all our people, and thank you more for feeling part of our people. Segundo, les quería preguntar, ¿cuántos drones producen al año y cuál ven que es el futuro de la empresa? ¿Hasta dónde quieren crecer? ¿Qué creen que va a pasar en los siguientes años con su empresa que ya crearon?
La verdad, la venta de drones cambia mes a mes, inclusive hemos doblado ventas de un mes para otro, entonces es un poquito impredecible. Ajá, ahorita el puro piloto automático sin el dron listo para volar vendemos alrededor de 10,000 unidades.
A year,
ya 10,000 unidades al año, más o menos, que es el puro piloto automático, que lo puedes poner en un avión, helicóptero y todo esto. ¿Y helicópteros armados como cuánto vendes al año? 2,000 de lo que va del año. Si llevamos un año y medio en operaciones y ya llevan 2,000 drones, pero ya completos, listos para volar, para utilizarse.
And just to give a point of reference, Again, the U.S. military has 7,000 total. So we put more drones in the air every year than the whole U.S. military has in its total fleet.
Yo soy David, soy presidente de Desarrollo Económico de Tijuana y pues la verdad las cosas, yo quisiera que les diéramos un aplauso verdaderamente serio porque quiero que sepan que este es el primer caso de éxito, de innovación extraordinaria en nuestra Tijuana. Tenemos innovación todos los días en nuestras plantas, pero este es un caso que verdaderamente pues, hay que felicitarlos. Jordi, Guillermo, Chris, muchas gracias. Nosotros estamos en el proceso de crear nuestros propios sistemas de innovación. Con mucho gusto, ojalá ustedes participen en el futuro con nosotros para crear ese camino para esa gente joven que hay aquí, para crear nuevos productos, para desarrollarlos aquí en Tijuana a nivel mundial. Muchas gracias.
Ellos son una leyenda. En Tijuana Innovadora ellos son una leyenda. Cuando vino Chris nos platicó historias de cómo sí se podía y cuando conocimos a Jordi, pues la verdad nos quedamos pasmados. Extraordinaria gente, hicieron su negocio, les fue bien, es un ejemplo. Ellos son gente preciosa y la verdad él es la única. You're the only one that we invite twice. Es el único que invitamos 2 veces. And we will invite you the 3rd time. Okay. Quiero que, ya saben que, entonces quiero que take your hands with him and let's do We want to give you this present. It was designed by my friend Jack Wiener. He's from Tijuana Innovadora, and I would like Mr. David to give you this one. And I hope you like it. Okay, ya se venga, come to live here closer if you want, even in San Diego if you want. Okay, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Qué increíble, ¿eh? Qué hazaña. Ya están mandando esos aviones están mandando al mundo esos aviones que matan afganistanos. Acabamos de mandar los 2 satélites, ya salieron de la universidad de aquí, la primera vez. Otro efecto, no de Tijuana Innovadora, sino de la voluntad de la gente que quiere participar con Tijuana Innovadora. No se ha acabado esto, tenemos todavía extraordinarios personajes. Va creciendo, vengan, avisen a sus mamás, a sus primos, a sus hermanos. Tenemos los talleres trabajando, sigue habiendo un ambientazo. Prepárense para bailar el fin de semana. El día 10, el domingo, vamos a bailar y va a ser explosivo. No pueden faltar. Y en este evento, pues muy agradecidos y seguimos.
Así es, muchas gracias a Chris Anderson. Y Guillermo, muchas gracias por esta conferencia y precisamente con esta actividad cerramos este extraordinario y fascinante tema que literalmente nos lleva muy lejos de la Tierra, un tema